NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett is at Penn Medicine. It's the site of some of Moderna's clinical trials. Maura, thousands of people have already gotten the Moderna shots as part of these trials. Would you walk us through them? How did they work? What were they like?
Right, so 30,000 people across the country participated in the Moderna trial, several of them all here in Philadelphia, a big chunk of that trial being conducted here. It's actually the site, too, where Dr. Weissman, the doctor who designed the technology that was in both Pfizer's and Moderna's vaccine, works. And so this is the site where everything's happening, Allison. So basically, these volunteers signed up, they're at will, and they told me that they wanted to help. They felt helpless before, and this is something where they wanted to tackle the spread of COVID-19. So they signed up. They took the first shot back in August through October. They were at varying rates. And then after 28 days, they got the second shot. And then they were able to report their symptoms. A lot of patients reporting, minor symptoms when it comes to headaches, some fever, pain at the injection site, but nothing major. And all of them emphasizing that obviously these symptoms are a lot better than actually getting COVID itself. And actually one of them, Una Brewer, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, she was able to ask Moderna to unblind her because she's a doctor and was offered the opportunity to get the Pfizer vaccine today. And it turns out that she was one of those placebos, because in these studies, there's people that get the vaccine and then those that don't. And it's kind of like a sugar pill, right? And so she didn't get the vaccine and she's able to get the Pfizer one today. And when I asked Dr. Weissman, should we be concerned about that affecting the trial? He said that it's absolutely unreasonable for any patient that did get the placebo to not actually get the vaccine for the sake of the trial, right? Because anybody that didn't get the vaccine needs to get it because there is FDA-approved vaccines out there, and we really want everyone to be safe. So I know there was some buzz about that with the Moderna vaccine going around today, and that's what this doctor clarified for us, Allison.
Great to hear more. We certainly do want everyone to be safe. I know you caught up with some of the trial participants. What did they tell you about it?
Yeah, I mean, these participants were very excited because this is a history-making ordeal, right? I spoke with Mike Pearson and Una Brewer, who I mentioned, but Mike is an African-American man, and he mentioned the fact that here in Philadelphia, despite it being such a diverse city, they were having trouble finding the right amount of African-American participants, and that's a population that was significantly affected by the coronavirus pandemic, and so he wanted to make sure that his input could help instill confidence in the communities of color to make sure that they do get vaccinated, because there is this historic distrust in the Black and brown communities when it comes to medical treatments and medical trials. And then Una Brewer, she's that pediatrician that I mentioned. The scope of her practice during this pandemic has completely changed, and she felt like she couldn't help her patients. And so she wanted to do something to help. And when I asked her, I actually spoke with her in between appointments yesterday virtually, and I asked her, I was like, what does it feel like to hear that the Pfizer vaccine has been approved and now Moderna might as well after you participated in this trial? Take a listen to what she said.
I tell you, myself and my entire office, when we found out, there was a palpable weight that was lifted. It felt like a kid on Christmas morning that we were actually going to, I'll probably get emotional, that we're actually going to, it's the start of good health. So everybody in my office is just feeling this sigh of relief.
So there's a lot of emotion surrounding this, obviously, Allison, but the two main takeaways I got from speaking with these trial participants: first, we have a lot of information. They wanted to combat this misinformation that's going around, conspiracy theories, and we also have time to do the research. So anybody that's nervous about the coronavirus vaccine, these participants feel very confident that the doctors and researchers did their side of the work to make this possible, and now it's our turn to make sure that we do as well by taking the vaccine to curb the spread. The other thing that Una mentioned, she wanted to make sure that anybody that's maybe skeptical or anti-vaxxers out there, she really wants to spread the word against that misinformation, because this is something that is going to be able to help curb this spread, unlike anything else that we have, Allison.
Maura, you really are the bearer of good news today. Lots of positivity in this report. Would you just remind our viewers for a moment, if you could, Moderna, of course, the second vaccine behind Pfizer, and they are a little bit different, even though they have a whole lot of similarities. What are some of the biggest differences that people should just be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. So Moderna and Pfizer have pretty similar efficacy rates within 1 percentage point of each other. So that's also positive news. But it is important to realize Pfizer is also 2 shots. So is Moderna. Pfizer's are going to be about 3 weeks apart. Moderna is 4 weeks apart. And the other thing with Moderna is that it doesn't need to be stored at these incredibly cold temperatures that Pfizer does. Remember those Arctic sub-zero temperatures that require special refrigerators? Moderna doesn't need that. So that's actually more good news for those rural, smaller populations. Pennsylvania, where I'm at, is very rural for the most part. The bulk of the country is. And so this is going to be a huge plus in terms of distribution for this vaccine. But Allison, I know we're talking about a lot of good news. There's a lot of hope and light at the end of the tunnel. But this does come as we're still seeing these record spikes in cases, deaths, and hospitalizations across the country. Here in Pennsylvania specifically, they're seeing double the amount of hospitalizations that we saw in the peak during the spring. So there is this balance. You know, we can have this hope, but we do need to recognize that, you know, it's going to still be several months until the curve starts to go down again with the effects of these vaccines.
Yeah, and Maura, your tunnel reference is so appropriate because anyone who's ever driven from eastern Pennsylvania across the state to western Pennsylvania knows you drive through a whole lot of tunnels, so people maybe should think about it that way. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, but you got a couple more tunnels to go before you get from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh.
Exactly. For sure.
Thanks, Maura.
Thanks, Allison.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.